What is the greatest common factor of 16x to the fifth and 24x squared? Well, if you look at the factors of 16, you have 1 in 16, 2 times 8, nothing times 3, 4 times 4. The factors of 24 are 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, 4 times 6. So the greatest common factor they have in common is 8. And x to the fifth is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is just 2. How many x's do they have in common? 2. So it's 8x squared, which is D. Number 22, a table has an area. So the area is x squared minus x minus 12. The width is x minus 4. What's the length? We know that area is length times width. So you just take a trinomial and make it two things multiplied together, or two factors, so you factor it. Remember, you make a little t-chart of x squared and negative 12. The factors of x squared are x and x. The factors of negative 12, negative 1 times 12, negative 2 times 6, negative 3 times 4, and you want it to add to be negative 1. Well, this equals positive 1 if you add them. But if you did negative 4 times 3, negative 4 plus 3 equals negative 1. See, it's negative 4 plus 3. So this is the width because it's given to us, so this has to be the length. So x plus 3 feet, the answer is A for 22. 23, which trinomial is not a perfect square? For it to be a perfect square, it has to factor to be something like x plus 2 times x plus 2, which equals x plus 2 quantity squared. So let's take a look and factor this. What multiplies to be 49 and adds to be 15? Well, 7 times 7, which is x plus 7 squared. So A is a perfect square trinomial. I'm looking for which one is not. What multiplies to be positive 36 and adds to be negative 12? How about x minus 6? X minus 6, which is x minus 6 quantity squared. That is a perfect square trinomial. For C, I need to think, well, I would do slide and divide. So I would get x squared plus 8x plus 81. So I would need to factor this to x and x. And look at the factors of 81. That would sum to equal 8. Well, 1 times 81, no, that's going to equal 82. 9 times 9, nope, that's not going to work. Well, it would have to be 9 times 9 to be a perfect square. But since 9 times 9 does not work, it's not a perfect square. Because any other number is not going to be the same. It has to be the same. And 9 and 9 are the only two that equal 81, so it can't be that. 24, we need to factor this completely. With a binomial, remember you first look for a GCF times your leftovers. And then you look at your leftovers and see if it's a difference of 2 squares. So if I have 15b cubed minus 60b, I know that the GCF equals 15b. So I factor it out and I get 15b times, when I factor out my 15b, I get b squared minus 4, which is a difference of 2 squares. So I get 15b, b plus 2, b minus 2, because the square root of b squared is b, the square root of 4 is 2, and you get b is your answer. For 25, a certain box of nails contains 2 times 10 to the second nails. How many nails are there in 12 times 10 cubed boxes? Well, you might think to yourself, a certain box of nails contains 3 nails. How many are in 5 boxes? Well, there'd be 15, so you have to multiply. So 2 times 10 squared times 12 times 10 cubed. And remember, you would multiply 2 times 12 and get 24. 10 squared times 10 cubed is times 10 to the 2 plus 3 is 5. But 24 is not in scientific notation. I knew originally I started at 24 and I had to go 5 right. But this first number has to be between 1 and 10, so my decimal now is here. So now I have to go 6 right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I get 2.4 times 10 to the 6th, which is D. 26, what's the perimeter? Well, you know the perimeter equals 2L plus 2W. So if this is my length and this is my width, I have 2 times the quantity x squared plus 4 plus 2 times the quantity x plus 5. And I distributed. And I got 2x squared plus 8 plus 2x plus 10, which gives me 2x squared plus 2x plus 18 when I combine my like terms to get B. For 27, first thing, let's look for a GCF. So my GCF of 6x cubed plus 18x squared plus 3x is going to be 3x. So when I factor out 3x from everything, I get 3x times the quantity, 2x squared plus 6x minus 1. Now I'm going to check and see if I can factor this by slide and divide. So I'm going to check to factor. Always, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So 2 would slide over here and I get x squared plus 6x minus 2. Well, can you think of any factors that multiply to be negative 2? The only thing you have is negative 1 times 2 and 1 times negative 2 that add to be 6. You can't factor that, so this is just your answer because you cannot factor it. You tried it, it did not work, so your answer is simply C. 28, find the coordinates for the vertex. So you have it in standard form. You know that A equals 1, B equals negative 8, and C equals 4. To find your vertex, remember you first find your axis of symmetry, which is x equals negative b all over 2a, or negative 1 times b. So x equals negative 1 times negative 8 all over 2 times 1. So you get positive 8 over 2, which is 4. So in your vertex, you know that it's going to be 4, comma, y. To find your y, you have to sub it in to your original quadratic. So you get y equals 4 squared minus 8 times 4 plus 4. So y equals 16 minus 32 plus 4, which is negative 16 plus 4, which equals negative 12. So you get 4, negative 12, which is A. For 29, the graph of f of x equals 3x squared plus 2 is narrowed. Remember, when it's narrowed, you look at the absolute value of A. If it gets bigger, it gets more narrow. If it gets smaller, it gets more wide. And then it's translated 4 units up. For translations, you look at C. Up would mean it goes plus 4. So which would describe the new graph? If f of x equals 3x squared plus 2, I know that A, to become more narrow, has to be bigger. So I know that the absolute value of A, to get more narrow, has to be bigger than 3. And I know that my C has to be, originally here it was 2, so it has to be 2 plus 4, which is 6. So I know B and C are not the answers. So which is more narrow? Oh, D, because 4 is bigger than 3. 4 is A, 6 is C, and B is 0 for all of those. Number 30, find the solutions. When you find the solutions, you set equal to 0. So I say 0 equals 3x squared minus 3x minus 6. I notice that I can divide everything by 3. So you get 0 equals x squared minus x minus 2. Now you can solve it using the quadratic formula. You can use x equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Or this one I think is nice to factor. So I know what multiplies to be negative 2 and adds to be negative 1. How about negative 2 plus 1? Then you set each factor equal to 0. And use inverse operations to get x equals 2 minus 1, x equals negative 1. So positive 2 and negative 1, your answer is A. Number 31, the equation for which graph would have a discriminant that is negative. Remember, for discriminants, if it's positive, you get 2 solutions. If it's negative, you get none. And if it's 0, you get 1. So for negative, I'm looking for which one that has no solutions. A has 2 solutions. It's not A. C has 2 solutions. It's not C. This one is B. B has 1 solution. And D has none. So your answer is D. Make sure you know all of those for the test tomorrow. And let's just go over the quadratic formula one more time, where x equals negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And your discriminant is your b squared minus 4ac, and it tells you all of that.